Hey, good morning, everybody. Pitstop with your Deers Ford Auto Amigos. I'm Tony.
And I'm Fernando.
Obviously, you might know that. So, Fernando, how was your week?
My week has been, man, we've been running around everywhere, Tony. I think it's been really packed. And what day is it? Thursday already?
Yes, yes.
That's why we're recording this
And
Thursday.
I want to clarify, you've been driving around.
Yes.
Yeah, running around.
Yes.
Tony would not be sitting here today if we'd been running all week.
Well, you would be sitting, taking a break.
So, any weird things this week? Bad cooking moments,
No
stories?
weird things. I don't think so. This week has been really fun. You know, it's been a it's been a packed week, but we did have a day off because we had Monday for Memorial Day, right? So we started working Tuesday, which again has been a really busy week, but it's been fun, and it's almost time for the weekend again.
It's weird when you have those short weeks, they almost feel longer than the regular week. And I don't know if that's just you get out of that routine or what it is.
And for those of you wondering, we do record on Thursday. That's why, but we do put the video or the podcast out on Tuesdays. That's why right now we're talking about, it's almost being the weekend and everything, but you're gonna get to see this later on.
So today we're calling this Fernando and Tony story time.
Yeah.
Today is just about some fun things that happened to us, things we've learned over the years, maybe some mistakes we've made.
Couple.
But start out with when we were growing up, did you have strict parents or parents that weren't very strict?
No, very, very strict parents. Yes, definitely. I got the strict end of the spectrum. How about you?
Not so much. I told the story one time about coming home at 5 in the morning and running in and saying, "Don't pay the ransom." I escaped. I didn't have a curfew. My parents weren't really strict. And what's funny is I turned out to be opposite with my kids. But I think being in the school, I heard about so many things that went on that I wanted to make sure my kids were not doing some of those things.
Right.
Hopefully, it made a difference. And I don't know if I would say overly strict, but we had rules and that line didn't move. And I'm not very bending. This is what I say, this is what I expect. And I think I'm still like that, not just with my kids, but just the way I am. So, what's the craziest punishment you ever had when you were growing up?
Craziest punishment. See, my parents never really did punishments. It was just
No timeouts,
no. My mom hit me. Not in
spoon,
a bad way. It's
spanking.
spanking. Yeah. So no, I don't think I ever got any actual like long term punishment for something that I did. How about you?
Well, my mom tended to be, whatever she could grab onto.
Yeah.
And wooden spoon, hairbrush. The hairbrush hurt a little more than a wooden spoon.
It was mostly like whatever was closest at the
Yes.
time.
Yeah, and then my dad, you know, and I know nowadays people be going, "Oh my god," but if you get a spanking, he had a belt,
Mhm.
and put
Mhm.
you over his lap and then sting a little bit. I know one day he was really mad. He had his bullwhip, and he didn't tie us up and whip us. He just bent it in half and used it like the belt, but it was, what do they call that, where you weave it? Girls do this with their hair, braided. And, if he spanked you with that, it stung a little more.
Yeah.
And the worst part is he'd tell you to go get it. And I got close to his office where it was, and I decided heading out the door would be a better thing
Oh yeah.
than getting that.
Uh,
So I was running around the yard from my dad, and he had the bullwhip chasing me. And I just wondered how many neighbors were thinking, "Oh my God, chain this kid up and whip him." Yeah, the funny thing is I learned out my dad's faster than I thought he was.
Mm.
Yeah, I didn't really think he could run like that. And I was pretty quick. So,
Yeah, you'd be surprised, huh?
yeah, it was shocking. Did you ever sneak out at home?
Yes. When I was a kid, I would always sneak out to, but not like in the dark or anything. Like it would just go in the afternoons. I would sneak out to go play outside with my friends. I grew up in Mexico, and we would be all over the small town that I lived in. And my mom would always be like, "No, you can't go outside. You're not gonna go. Blah blah. You gotta finish your homework." And while she was cooking or something, I would just sneak out.
I never snuck out. I didn't think I had to. We didn't have a curfew. And then I was that kid. I always thought I'd get caught. So I wasn't good at those kind of things. I wasn't a good liar. My mom would say, "I know if you're lying to me," and I wasn't good at that. Yeah, I didn't really try that. You know, some stuff we did when we were kids. I was, because you hear it all the time. I think I'm funny. And I got more trouble for just trying to be funny than I think really bad things. One night, my sister went across the vacant lot. My mom was at the mini mart in Peru, and my sister had gone over to get a pop and a candy bar. And so I thought it'd be really funny to hide behind this bush in the vacant lot next to where we lived. And when she came back, I grabbed her by the ankles and said, Lisa. And she dropped her pop and candy bar and ran off screaming. And my grandma lived across the street. And she opens the door, and I don't know if it's the reputation or what, but my grandma goes, Tony, is that you? It's pitch dark. And I'm like, yes, grandma. She's like, oh my God, what did you do? So, I'm thinking this is really funny. And then I realize, uh-oh, if she gets to my dad at home before I do, I'm in big trouble. Well, she beat me. I couldn't get her to stop, kept running and screaming, got in the house. Said, yeah, that didn't go over very good. That wasn't as funny to my dad as it was to me.
Yeah, did you have to go get the bullwhip?
No,
No?
I just had to go to my room. There was a time when the bullwhip went away, and I think maybe my mom said maybe it was after he was chasing me in the yard with it that, yeah, it's time for that to go.
Did you have any, embarrassing stories either where you were embarrassed or you embarrassed with somebody from the family?
I could make my sister puke by just hacking, like I was gonna hack up a loogie. She would start gagging. I mean, I constantly did something. I lowered a rubber spider through the vent in my room. It had one of those open floor vents where it was gravitating heat, so you didn't actually have a vent in your room. It just had those floor vents, so the
Mhm.
heat would arise. She was sitting in the recliner below that, and I lowered a rubber spider down, and I'd touch her head lightly with it, and she'd brush her hair back, and then pretty soon she looks up, and I dropped it on her face and screaming. When you're the only girl in the family, you tend to get special protection from dad and mom, and so, yeah,
You
once
know, I'm starting to see a trend, Tony. You were a little trouble when you were a kid.
well, the other thing I had is I had a sweatshirt collection from, like, every college. That was my goal is, like Oklahoma, I had an Alabama, and of course, I had Nebraska, but I had all these different sweatshirts from colleges, and my sister would wear them, and she would get makeup on them, and she'd have perfume on them, and even when you get washed, you'd wash them, and you couldn't get that perfume smell out. I'm thinking when I'm wearing them, the guys are looking at me like, "Is this dude wearing perfume?" And so I'd tell my mom, of course, she didn't do anything, so my sister had a Cabbage Patch doll collection, and I took all of her clothes out of her closet, and I made nooses, and I hung all of her Cabbage Patch dolls from the from the closet rod. Again, didn't go over very well, but that was funny to me.
That
So,
sounds hilarious.
let me ask you a question because
Yeah.
I've heard this, and I just wanna know if it's true.
Yes.
Latino moms don't mess around.
No, no. I was telling you, my mom would whenever she would be yelling at me and it was time for, Fernando to be in trouble, she would grab the closest thing to her. Most of the time, she just took off her shoe and threw it at me, right? That was the generic Hispanic mom, uh, weapon.
The old shoe toss.
Yeah, yeah. But it was a couple of things. I got a few rocks, shoes.
Now, let me ask you, was she accurate?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, she could go to a carnival and she's gonna knock down all those things.
You know, my mom was deadly accurate, deadly accurate. She would have been a great soldier. She would have never missed. But
If she's throwing shoes.
anything, I mean,
Yeah.
I got hit across the yard with a rock, and I mean, our backyard in Mexico was pretty big. I ran away. I don't remember why, but it was one of those times where I thought I could outrun my parents, and she wasn't gonna run after me, so she just picked up a rock and chucked it at me, hit me right in the back of the neck.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good thing it was like a little pebble, it was like a big rock, so
Yeah, it wasn't a boulder.
no, but it hurt for sure.
So those of you who watch Pitstop or you've watched Amigos on the Go with Fernando and I, we started all these things. I think what's our fifth episode or
This
sixth?
is gonna be our 6th, yep.
But we started working together about 6 months ago. And Fernando was first hired to sell cars. And I sold cars, but I also was doing community relations, staff events, different things like that. And so Fernando, who showed some skill in video and editing and all those kind of techie things, but Brandon decided that I'm going to have Fernando work with you and I'm going to have him start going to these things with you because he's bilingual. Those of you did not know that. Say something in Spanish. Say a fun. fun thing in Spanish.
You know, every time somebody says, say something in Spanish, I just don't know what to say in Spanish. Pero me voy a presentar, mi nombre es Fernando Contreras, trabajo aquí en Deers. Si algún día están buscando un carro, este es el mejor lugar para venir a comprarlo. Te vamos a ofrecer el mejor servicio del mundo. Así que si estás buscando un carro, sea de Ford o de Lincoln o de cualquier otro tipo de carros, aquí te esperamos.
Okay, I didn't say write a book. I said say something.
I did say something.
So there's your proof that Fernando speaks Spanish. We first met. That's how we first met, and we started working together. And my first impression of Fernando is he is very well dressed. He's very well spoken, and he's just somebody. I think he takes pride in his appearance. But I thought he's a pretty sharp guy. He was real good when we went out and did things, and was good with people. And so I had a great first impression of Fernando. Now this might change when you ask Fernando, "What was your first impression of me?"
Mine was a little different.
I knew it.
It was a little similar. I mean, I saw that you were very well dressed and very well kept, but I I remember that I saw you and I was like, man, this guy is so serious. I think that one of the times that I realized you weren't so serious is when you were getting ready to be the MC at the teammate celebration last year. And for those of you who don't know, he was the MC for the teammate celebration, so he was cracking jokes all night long. Maybe this is a little, you know,
Don't give up the information.
I'm gonna give out a little bit of information, but he looked up those dad jokes and he practiced them.
He did.
But I saw him go through, websites or whatever, and he was writing down those dad jokes, and he was finding the best ones he thought were funny, and they were funny from what I heard. I wasn't there, but they told me he was very funny. I was like, well, maybe he's not as serious as I thought.
You know, it's funny that you said that because for a long time, I'm the football coach, athletic director. Those aren't really platforms to be funny at. Any job I do, I guess I take serious and I want to do a good job. And so I tend to be an organizer, somebody who plans things. And even with the jokes, if I had to stand up there and rattle off jokes, they wouldn't have been very appropriate, the ones I would remember. And so, then you go to an outside source, but I want to entertain people. I want people to feel like I had a good time. And so for me, that takes some practice. And the big thing to me, and that's probably the serious side of me, is I always want to do a good job. I want people to feel like he did a good job,
Hmm.
and that's important to me. And so biggest argument you think we've ever had?
I don't think we've had many arguments, Tony.
Disagreements?
One time that you got on me because I was late. I think that comes to mind. Other than that, I don't think we really had many arguments. I think we've gotten along pretty well, and we work well together. So
Anytime you spend every day together in the same office, and now we have Nick in their little lug nut in the same office, it's not a huge space. You would think people would you'd wear on each other. And I'm sure there things are that do, but Fernando's still late, and I don't know that I'm going to change that. But I think for the most part, the great thing's been there's been mutual respect, and I think it's harder sometimes when I'm going to be 61 in July, and Fernando's 26.
mhm.
So obviously, one of us probably tries to act more like the father figure than the other one. And I don't know, he's very good at what he does. And I always try and appreciate that. Guy's always in a good mood and I'm not, but he's always generally in a mood that's easy to deal with. And so I appreciate that about him, and it makes things easier. Cast, he goes on the go. Any of those things we've done where something went completely wrong,
Oh my gosh.
I bet we're going to think of the same one.
I have two. I have two. The first one is the one we did Find Us This. The first time we did Find Us This in downtown Fremont, we sat there for 2 hours and it
Cold.
was freezing, freezing outside. I think Tony was the first one to break, and he was like, "I'm going to the car."
I did go sit in the truck for a couple minutes.
We were sitting out there for 2 hours. It was freezing cold. We didn't expect to be out there for that long, and it was terrible. After that, we decided to put, little a little, what would you say that?
A disclaimer,
Yeah, we put a little disclaimer,
weather permitting.
weather permitting, because we are not gonna do that again. The other day, I told Nick as soon as we were leaving the dealership, if I could feel a drop of rain, we are leaving.
This is done.
Yeah, we're not doing that again. And the second thing, I think,
Now, one thing about the cold,
yeah,
and important to me, we had said we were going to be there.
yeah, and that's why we stayed.
But to me, you said you're going to do this. You made a promise, and that's why we were there.
But we could only take so much of it.
Now that also comes out with the disclaimer. Now that weather permitting, because he was right, it was freezing.
Yes. Yes, it was. And I think the second thing that I was telling you was yesterday, when we were driving around doing Amigos on the Go with Cameo Sweeney.
Mrs. Nebraska.
Yeah, Mrs. Nebraska International 2026. That one guy that just decided to go instead of stop at the stop sign, and we were just about to hit him. That was a little scary.
I did think we were going to hit him.
We were very close.
And I think, honestly, I think he thought we had a stop sign. I think he thought it was a
Yeah.
four-way,
Yeah.
and he didn't really stop at his too well.
I saw their faces and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I
Yeah.
was like, "Well, it's your fault."
Yeah. The thing I can think of, our podcast with Coach Jamrog.
Oh, I forgot about that.
We did, it was about 45 minutes, and get done and realize we didn't have any sound. It didn't record. One camera recorded, the other one didn't. And so thank God Coach Jamrog came back on Saturday and redid it. But that was stressful.
Man, that was terrible. So for you, those of you guys, if you guys haven't seen the episode with Coach Jamrock, I recommend that you should go listen to that one. But we had him in here, and for some reason, the sound and the camera disconnected, and you guys can't see it, but we usually set two cameras, and well, the only one that was still connected just recorded, I think, Coach Jamrock, but there was absolutely no sound, so there was no point on putting that out there because there's no sound. So it was very embarrassing. We had to ask Coach Jamrock. Tony had to call him and ask if he could come back, and he's a very busy man, especially with football season coming up and everything, and graduation that week and all
That
of
day.
that. Yeah. Well, the
The day
first
he
time,
came back.
yeah, the day he came back, he had graduation 2 hours later, and he was gracious enough to come back and redid the whole interview, and it turned out great. I mean, Coach Jamrog is an amazing speaker, and it was a phenomenal podcast, but it was very embarrassing, especially for me because I'm the one that sets everything up.
Well, not just you. I mean, it was, we're not professional people at those kind of sounds. And so when something goes wrong, you really didn't know it. We went through this
Mhm.
whole thing not knowing it quit. So that, yeah, a little embarrassing. You feel a little incompetent. It was stressful.
Very much so.
So in your family, I know you're not married, so you don't have any marriage lessons.
A lot of marriage lessons,
How
Tom.
about dating lessons?
Dating lessons.
Things you've learned about dating.
Dating, it's as hard as you make it out to be. That is that is the lesson that I will put out there.
Okay, let's take back the marriage thing because it's about the
I
same.
told you I had marriage lessons as well. But yeah, not marriage, dating, even marriage. I mean, it's only as hard as you make it out to be. I think that people often run out of patience with each other and just say, whatever. But I mean, you still got to be together, right? I mean, you choose to love that person every day. It's not like love is gonna last forever, right? There's times when you really don't like that person, but you choose to love that person every single day. That's the difference.
The number one, I've learned that I'm really hard to live with, probably. Fortunate that I've found somebody who's great and very giving, probably maybe to a fault, which is that a gift? But, the thing I've learned the most is, we made a commitment to each other. And even in those bad times, we're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And we'll make it through that. And we've been married. My gosh,
You better not get that wrong.
no, I know the year. I just got to figure the math. So 34 years here in June. And, that's a long time. But I think that the best thing that we learned is we made a commitment to each other. And if there's bad times, we're going to work through those. And, fortunately, hopefully you have a lot more great times. That since we have grandkids came into our life, well, our daughters, obviously, what a huge gift those were. And then the grandkids, it's just like somebody said, do you love your grandkids more? And I think, no, now we just don't have to be the ones who always worried about the little things that their
Mhm.
parents do. So it's a great time. And I know some of the parent struggles you go through is mostly just because you want your kids to be good people and you want to do the right things. And so, does that mean you always do the right things? I don't think so. But I think you do it with the idea of wanting good things for your kids. And I don't know if that ever goes away, even when they get to be adults. There's times where I think you have some of your kids feel like maybe you do more of this for the others, and so those things never really go away. But you try and do the right things for all of them.
So, as a parent, I mean, everybody goes through parenthood for the first time, right? So, the first kid, you don't know what you're doing. There's no guide. There's no, I mean, there's books now and everything, but there's no right way to do things. So, how was that a first experience with you? Like, with that moment when you're like, I have no clue what to do, but I guess I'm just gonna do this.
I think you take things from your childhood that you thought were good, that you believe in. And, I think my wife and I both being teachers, we saw things we wanted and things we didn't. But as a teacher, you get to see a lot of examples of how people parent.
Hmm.
And then I think you pick and choose what you want. And obviously, grandparents are going to have their suggestions, even when you don't want them. And, but you take all those things and you try and do the right thing. The scariest things in the world are when they're sick and you don't know what to do, and I don't wanna be, over extreme, where you take them in for
Were
everything.
you that parent that would take a man all the time?
No, that was my wife's. I was more because in my house, you better be dying or
Hmm.
you're not going to the
Yeah.
hospital or the doctor, and, I never argued it too much because I want her to be happy, and not worry.
Yeah.
And so she'd taken my "Well, I told you they were gonna say that," but you don't wanna do that too much, where that "I told you so." Uh, yeah, I think you just do the best you can and you try and take experiences you've had and apply that to your kids, but I think the most important thing is keep in mind what's best for our kids, and I think we tried to do that, but you learn lessons. Some things work, some don't.
Yeah, always. And as a dad, I think I have no experience with that, but what are some of the best dad moments that you had?
Oh my gosh, there's so
Have
many.
you seen those videos where like dads just have that instinct to catch their kids when they're about to fall and everything? Did you ever have one of those moments where you just go,
I
catch?
chased my daughter all the way down the stairs and just could not. It was like this far away from catching her.
And you missed her? She
Yeah,
fell?
I couldn't catch her.
Gosh.
And, it was a scary moment, Of course, our kids just seem like they can recover from, anything. And she was fine after crying for a while, but I just remember I was chasing her down these stairs, and I just couldn't get a hold of her, and we were at my wife's grandparents one time for dinner and she fell and she she teeth went through her bottom lip and we had to take her to the emergency room and get stitches and my wife, I had to tell her, "Okay, go sit down over there," because she looked like she was gonna pass out.
Mhm.
And, having played sports and football and things and having had injuries, nothing serious, but those never really bothered me. I had broken fingers and things, but when you see your kid like that, there's nothing you can do.
Mm.
That's very hard, to watch that because I can't fix it.
Which one of you two saw it first? Was it you or was it Brenda?
Brenda, but she came downstairs and got me and says, "Hey, we had been there like 15 minutes. We have to go to the emergency room." And of course we went out. So I stood with her while they stitched her up, and of course they give her the shot of Novocaine in the lip and she's screaming and I go, You're so tough." I kept telling her, "You're tough." And
But
then,
you was mostly for you.
yeah. And then after it went numb, she goes, "Dad, it just doesn't even hurt. I'm so tough." And I'm like, "Yeah, you are, just like your dad." But, one of the things I'll tell you, that's great about my wife's family, and we live close to them. So it's not that my family wouldn't be, my parents have been in Arizona, I've been in Nebraska, But my wife's family is very close, and so we have a lot of family gatherings. Every Sunday night, we have dinner, unless there's something going on where they can't, but usually everybody comes and you get to know your brother-in-law as well and your nieces and nephews, and I think that's been a great thing for our family, and I give my credit to my in-laws for, they've created that bond in their
Mhm.
family, and I see that in my daughters with each other, and I think they've learned from their grandparents' example and the fact that we went, we always went. I think they've gotten closer and they have that bond and they want that.
Mm.
They wanna be close like that. So I think that's good. Your family get together like that, have those gatherings?
So it was a little tougher for my family because we all lived separate, like in different places. I mean, for the longest time, I lived in Mexico, and we would always get together for Christmas. Christmas was like the family time, and everybody came together and everything. But I mean, as you get older and everybody, starts getting their families, I think everybody just started going their own separate ways. But we still try to, always have those little family gatherings here and there. It's not as often as you would like to, but it's always good to have that bond with the family. I think it's tough sometimes when you don't have any family members around. So being close is always a great time.
The one thing I learned because when my parents lived in Arizona and I was in college in Fremont, I learned to take some care of some things on my own
Mhm.
that I couldn't rely on my mom and dad to do, and that helped me, I think, grow up. Wasn't always fun, but I had to learn to take care of some things
Yeah.
because I couldn't put it on anybody else. So, going back to your childhood again, or maybe it's even now. I hope it's not now because you go to my daughter to get your hair done. But any bad hair moments, any bad haircuts?
Now when I was a kid, I think that the last time I had a bad haircut was an accident. So like I was telling you that I used to work construction during the summers, right? During my high school years, I used to work construction during the summers, and one time it was just a bad day. I got pulled over that day for going a little too fast on my way to work, and then that same day we were working on putting up wallpaper in a restaurant, and you have to put glue on the wall before you put up the wallpaper or the plastic. And we only had like a 2 foot, 3 foot ladder, and it was a pretty big wall. So I was stretching as far as I could with that brush to put up the glue. And in one of those stretches, I got too close to the wall, so my head got stuck to the wall. So I had this super strong glue in my hair, and
Is that when you started using gel?
no, no, and I had to go get a haircut immediately, and the guy was just like, "Hey, listen, I can't do a lot because it's really in your hair, so let's just cut as much as we can off, and then we'll just save it later on." And I mean, my hair grows really fast, so I mean, 2 weeks later, I was back at the barber shop, fixing the haircut that I got. But I think that was the worst haircut
I
that I
bet that
had.
was hard for you because your hair is important
Oh, yes,
too.
you
Yeah.
have no clue. When I went to the military and they had to shave it off, it was the worst moment of my life.
When I was a kid, I think up until we were, I don't want to say like 7th grade, we'd go out on the porch and my dad would take the clippers and give us a buzz cut.
Oh, really?
And man, I'd cry and I'd take a hat and I'd wear a hat everywhere because I hated it. And then my mom finally said, no more of this. They can wear their hair however they want. And then I went through just a few years later where the long hair came in style. Of course, in style, so you wanna be that guy.
Right.
And so, try to grow my hair out. Well, my hair as it gets longer, it's really curly and wavy, and so my hair would get so long and then it curled back up, and so it looked so stupid, but everybody had long hair, so, I was trying to wear it like that, and when my wife and her mother were going through pictures with my mom for our slideshow at our wedding, they have this picture where my hair is all curled up like that, and they're all laughing so hard.
Where's this picture at?
Yeah, you
We
don't
wanna see it.
yeah, no, we don't. And I said, "Do not put that in the slideshow." Yeah, guess what they did?
Put it in the slideshow.
Yeah, and everybody at our wedding reception is dying because they're laughing at my hair, which, you know what? It still bothered me, that why'd we put this in there?
I'm gonna reach out to Brenda, maybe she has the picture.
Yeah, I bet she does. Yeah, I don't wanna see that show up in anything on deers, but
It's gonna be your birthday post, feel
so,
me?
it's all about looking cool. Did you have any failed attempts at looking cool?
Failed attempts at looking cool.
You thought, "Boy, this is cool, I'm doing it," and then you go, "Yeah, that was the dumbest thing I ever did."
No, I don't think I was not much of a trendy person, so I think I've always done, like, classic haircut style and, clothing-wise, I'm always very, as long as it doesn't look bad, and I was never wearing any trendy clothes. So, I don't think I've ever tried anything
Well, it's
that
still hard to
failed.
get you to wear a shirt that's not black or gray or
Yeah,
some neutral
yeah,
color.
no, yeah, I'm not that far out into the color scheme. So, no, I don't think so. How about you?
You know, uh, the only thing I can think of besides the hair deal, which was bad, when I was in college, there was a point where the suspenders came back in a little, but they weren't the wide ones, they were thin. The good thing back then is, I worked out like 6 days a week because I was playing college football. So, I was built a little different.
Mhm.
And so, when you're built, and you're in good shape.
Tony was built like a tank back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, those days are gone. I look like a broken down tank now. But back then, you could almost wear anything, and if you're muscular, look pretty decent.
Yeah.
I remember I was at a party and I got these now the pants were cool. I probably shouldn't have wore the suspenders with them, but I had like this line. It was a yellow, a real fluorescent kind of yellow. It had
Mhm.
these green pants on, which were cool pants.
Oh, heck yeah.
But I had the suspenders on with them, and I didn't even do it on purpose, but this is how cheap the shirt was. The sleeves would roll up on its own, so it looked like I'd rolled them up to show off the guns. But, I look at that and I go, "Yeah, that was kind of one of those outfits I don't know that I'd wear again." And I don't know if I did wear it after that.
Oh, you know what? Now that I remember, I think the one look that I did do that I thought I looked fantastic is what I wore for prom, which wasn't bad, but looking at the pictures now, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's terrible."
Was it like that fluorescent orange,
No,
tuxedo, like they Dumb and Dumber?
oh, no, no, not that bad, not that bad. I had 2 proms because I went out with this girl that was going to a different school. So, I went to mine and I went to hers, and she made me wear this it's a black tux jacket, but the vest and everything was pink.
That must be why you like those pink golf balls.
Oh, yeah, yep,
Started
it
way back
was
then.
trauma from that day.
How about back in your day in high school, things that you did that you look back on and go, yeah, I don't know why I was doing that. I saw the mustache.
Oh my gosh, that mustache. Yeah, not growing that again.
You know Cheech off of Cheech and Chong?
Yeah.
You kind of look like Cheech a little bit.
Yeah, don't go looking for those pictures, guys.
He showed me that picture.
Yeah, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. No, I don't think. Back in high school, I was mm-mm, can't think of anything.
You know, I I don't, and I'm trying to think back, and I think probably really close friends, which we moved quite a bit in my school years, and so I don't, there's that point where I didn't grow up with these guys, so I'm not their close. They had stories about when they were kids. I didn't have that with them. I was always kind of jealous of that, but I don't really know if my true personality came out
Mm,
back then. Because you always thought I have to be cool and I want them to like me. And so I don't know if that, I know you don't think I'm humorous, but I've always had that part of me. And I don't know how many people got to see that because, got to be cool,
yeah.
And so I don't think that side of me came out as much.
I don't during high school, I didn't do many curricular activities, so I think the only sport I did throughout high school was soccer, and I did that from freshman year till junior year, and in junior year, I stopped playing because I started working. And now looking back at it, I guess the thing that I would have liked to do was just have more fun throughout my high school career and, just do more activities. I would have loved to finish out my soccer career in high school, which I didn't play soccer in college either, but it would have been fun.
That the having getting to play college football was one of my dreams, and I loved it. And so I was appreciative of being able to do those things. But we didn't have a lot of money, and so I had to work. and, that was hard to balance,
Mhm.
between work and doing those kind of things because that can take a lot of time, when you throw in the weightlifting and the camps and things you go to. But that's something I still look back on, proudly that I got to do that and that it went well and I'm so appreciative of all the people I met doing it. So let's talk about real life struggles. What kind of things stress you out? Because I don't see you get stressed too often.
You know, a lot of people think that. A lot of people think that I don't get stressed.
You
I
just
do get stressed.
keep it
I just
inside.
I just don't show it a lot. I try not to let things get to me quite often. I think it's very hard for people to get under my skin or, just for me to react. And it takes a lot. So I try to stay calm, try to stay cool. And most of the time I'm very positive. I'm always, trying to have people see a better version of myself and, so they can bring out a better version of themselves as well.
What
So
kind of things stress you the most?
that's hard.
Money?
Money is always stressful. Yeah, you're right. Money is always a stress, especially when you're starting out your life and doing everything. And I think that I'm the type of person that just wants everything to happen all at once. And it stresses me out when I can't get that to happen. So, having to do things little by little to not spend as much money and to do all that, that kind of stresses me out.
I think, you as you get older, you get into adulthood and one of my when you grow up and you don't have a lot of money, and you watch your parents struggle with some of those things. I always wanted to, part of getting an education and getting career is I didn't wanna have to worry about how I was gonna pay my electric bill, how I was gonna pay for the house, the rent or the mortgage. I just didn't wanna have to worry about those things, and so I think, for the most part, those kinda things didn't stress us because we knew we could pay our bills. The hard part is when you get something unexpected, like your heating and air conditioner went out
Oh, yeah, those are expensive.
in the higher priced items because
Hmm.
when you're teachers, like we were, we don't have a lot of cash on hand where something like that happens. And so you find out besides just paying bills, you got to have that, you know,
Savings.
yeah, or we
Hmm.
can put this on payment that we can
Right.
afford with our budget. So I don't know that money was uh, as much of a stress thing. I think over the years, and I think even when I was in school and playing sports, and even as a coach, one of the things that stressed me was the fear of failure. And I was, when you move like we did, I was always afraid if I wasn't good at this, would the other kids like me? Would they be my friends just knowing me, or is it because I'm good at this? And I think that motivated me. I think it could be a motivator too. And then also when I was coaching, because I know I'm sure you ran into somebody go, "Yeah, he was mean."
No.
I was afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And sometimes that stress, people don't see it as stress. They see it as that's your personality. But, I think I'm a nice guy. I think I'm a good guy. But sometimes that gets the best of you and it tends to take over. And so I don't like that. Even now, I have a hard time not being somebody who's, just like this. I want it to be successful. That fear of failure bothers me. I've never been somebody who handles failure very well. And so I would say that's a stressful thing for me. And at 60 some years old, should I be worried about it? Yeah, I don't know, but it's just kind of who I am.
I think that, that just comes with you like to do things correctly and you like, everything to work out. So fear of failure is a very normal thing for many people to feel. There's really no way to overcome it other than to just say, you know what, let just was the one saying, God, let God take the wheel.
And I think I get this from my dad. Just put your head down and go to work,
Hmm.
and I think that's been me for a long time. I think I work hard at what I do, and I take pride in it. And that's the other part of that. That the pride for me is that people go, "That guy does a good job." I think it would kill me to hear somebody go, "What a terrible employee! That guy doesn't work hard. He's lazy. He doesn't care about this." That bothered me more than the pay. But the other thing I think when you do that, I'm not afraid of going to do something else because I know I'm going to work hard at it. And when I was retiring from the school, my wife's like, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, number one, you get a pension, so it's not like I'm not getting any money. We have a retirement pension." and I can do this. I can go here and do this. Tony, you've never sold cars. I go, yeah, but I'll be good at it. And she's like, do you really know that? I said, yes, and I think that drives me that I don't think she was doubting me. It's just the fear of a change.
Now, when you left the school and you decided to be done, did you feel a little lost? Because you had been doing that for a long time. Did you feel that sense of, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?"
It's funny. I had somebody tell me years ago I got West Nile. I got really sick, and that changed a lot of things. My immune system. Now I catch everything, and I became a diabetic. Because when I had West Nile, my adrenal glands shut down, and they had to give me 3 steroids to, do what my adrenal glands do. And number 1, I gained like 50 pounds, and I was Joe Toad, which was really hard for me because I'd always been in good shape, and I was still lifting at that point. But, I put on all this weight, and which I mean, I coulda ate every second. Those steroids were so strong. I was hungry nonstop. And so with that, becoming a diabetic and having gone through that, and then I was getting sick more often, I had a counselor at the school. She came and talked to me and said, "Did you ever think about getting out of football and not being a coach and just taking care of yourself?" And I said, I don't really know who I am without that. It's always been a part of my life as a player, and then as a coach. And I'd been doing it for so many years and I loved it. And I said, I just don't know who I am without that. I had a fear of that. Now, when I got to retirement, I'd always been in the school system. You know, again, you go clear back, I was a student, then went to college, and then I come out and I'm a teacher. And so, when I was a teacher and coach, and which were great years of my life. But when I hit that retirement age, it was different then. It was, I'm ready for a change,
Mhm.
and I think that's one of the great things about the country we live in. You can go do anything you want. And again, I've told kids and other people, you just have to be willing to work hard enough. And so I've never had a fear of changing professions. The fear is more, am I going to miss this?
Mhm.
And I had some of that, been in the school for 32 years. And so you have that fear of, am I going to miss this?
Yeah.
And when I first started here, Brandon wanted me to go do things with the schools, like what we're doing now.
Mhm.
And I said no, because I was afraid if I was still going, that I'd miss it. And I said, "No, I'll just sell cars." And I was at that point too. I just wanted to worry about me. I don't have to worry about anybody else. I just want to take care of me. And, of course, that changed again because Tony can't say no. And I really enjoy what we're doing. But, it again, you have responsibilities now for others. But yeah, it's been good. There's things you miss, but I think you find that somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think that as a man, there's things that you keep to yourself sometimes, and that bothers you a lot. What you more than anybody here, or more than me, I guess, you more than me should know that you were teaching young men, right? And
So
did you see a lot of those struggles?
what year were you born?
I was born in 1999.
Yeah, I'd been teaching for 11 years.
Man, look at that.
Yeah,
So
imagine that.
you saw you saw a lot of young men, and you were teaching them. Did you notice how the struggles that they went through as them feeling they couldn't talk to other people about what they were going through?
You know, you I have a lot of great memories of big games, state titles, and some of my coaching and, uh, the things you remember the most are those relationships. And I had a young man whose mother passed away from cancer, and he would come into my room and sit and talk to me and just cry, which is really hard. I don't have answers for those things, but
Yeah,
I can listen. And, when he graduated, he's supposed to be up there already, and it's like 10 minutes, and I'm telling my wife we gotta go and got the daughter in the car seat, and he comes flying in my driveway, gets out in his cap and gown, comes up and hugs me, and he says, "I'm gonna miss you." And I go, you know, tough guy, I can't get choked up in front of him. I'm like, get up to where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be up there." And so when my wife comes out, I got tears running down my cheeks. And she's like, I'm like, "I told you I can't handle being late." But, I remember those things probably more just because, he trusted me and he came to me at a time that's really hard in his life. And, he confided in me and shared a
yeah,
lot of things that were really hard. And when I have a lot of those stories And I'm probably more proud of those, at a young man who I got really close to. His folks went through divorce, and I noticed something was wrong. And, he stayed and talked to me for a long time. Again, I don't have the answers for that,
Yeah,
but I can listen, and I can try and help. And, but I got really close to him. And those are, those are special things that a check doesn't show,
yeah,
but you take that with you, and so there's great moments there that, I'll always have with me.
yeah. It's a lot of mental pressure to be dealing with all of that by yourself.
So we're gonna do a little rapid fire
Yeah.
Latino culture.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't know a lot of these things. So cookouts. So we had barbecues.
We had carne asada.
Yeah. And so are we barbecuing the same things? Steaks, hot dogs, hamburgers.
No, no, we're not doing the same things. So carne asada is a strip of steak basically, but it's cut very thin, and you just lay it out on the grill, and then you cook it, and it's well done. So it's not medium well, medium rare, not none of that, just well done. And then well, I'm sure you had it. Just in tacos, they just chop it up and make tacos out of it. But carne asada, it's a big Mexican or Hispanic thing. We make ribs sometimes, but thin sliced ribs, just like the little bone and stuff.
Spicy.
We use a lot of spice. Yes, I don't think. No, I mean, not everything that we cook is spicy. It's left to everybody's interpretation, spice level. But I definitely love the spicy stuff.
Did you grow up eating spicy things?
No, no, I didn't. Yeah, I did not like spicy stuff. And out of my family, I mean, one side of my family loves the spicy stuff, and the other side loves it. But now that we're older, is not as much. But yeah, love the spicy stuff now.
Music at your family gathering.
Music at my family gatherings. It was a
Beach
lot.
Boys, Bee Gees.
Definitely not those. So in the Mexican culture, music is strongly dependent on the region that you're from because Mexico is a big country and it has a lot of different tastes in music and culture and everything. So I got to listen to a lot of different stuff than somebody in the city would. And because I was raised in like central west Mexico or like west coast Mexico, it was a lot different than, somebody up with closer to the border would
Now, what
listen
kind
to.
of genre would you call that?
Well, overall,
It's not pop, it's not hip
no,
hop, it's
no. In Spanish, it's called regional mexicano, which is just a certain type of generalized version of Mexican music, and that covers a lot of different types styles. But it's I wouldn't know how to explain it, to be honest with you.
did you ever have to translate for your parents?
All the time. So when I got to the US, I got to the US when I was about 9 years old, and I started going to elementary school, and I didn't know a single word in English. And after the first year of school, which was fourth grade, I believe, when I got here, after my first year of school, I understood English, but I didn't speak English that well. But I became the translator for the school because back then people weren't really used to having Spanish speaking kids in school. So my school didn't have a translator. I was the translator. So every time somebody would go, like a mom would go into the school office and ask to, have their kid for the dentist appointment or anything, I'd be the one that was translating. So they would call me over the intercom and be like, Fernando, come down here.
So, any funny cultural misunderstanding?
Funny cultural misunderstandings. I think that one of the funniest things that I can think of, and maybe it's not funny to everybody, but when somebody doesn't know English, especially like, you're working here, right? Or I'm thinking of like a gardener, working and doing lawn services and stuff. You tell them something and they don't understand you, but they'll say yes. So you'll be speaking and you're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do that?" And then he'll be like, "Yes, yes," and just smile because we want as a Hispanic culture, I think we work hard to make people happy and believe that we did a good job, whatever we're doing. We just smile and say, yeah, and say, even if we don't know what you're talking about. And then that's, I guess, a funny thing that I can think of.
So, any Tony did what moments?
Tony did one moment. And what did you do, Tony?
That's what I'm asking it. You go, Tony did what? I don't have one for you either.
Oh, hi.
Yeah. How about old man complaints?
Old man complains. Nothing. Can't think of something.
The young guy complaints. Be on time. I thought you'd
I
say,
knew you were gonna
"You
say that.
always want me to be on time." I'm like Fernando's dad, I'm saying 10 minutes early is on time.
My father, I wish it was 10 minutes. My father and I worked together for a season. So it was from like, I don't know, let's say June to November. We were working in a concrete a company and we would go to the same shop. So we would go to the shop every morning to jump in the company truck and then we would go to wherever we had to work. We worked there for months and my father would get there 30 minutes early and just wait for them to open the door. I would get there right on time. So we would have to ride in different vehicles because my father would get mad at me and he would get anxious and he would hate that. So he would ride in a different vehicle even though we were going to the same place.
Sounds like me. Rapid fire questions for you. Pineapple on pizza.
Yes,
Sometimes. Sometimes I can handle it. Sometimes I just want plain
it's
Canadian bacon.
delicious.
It can be. Best old school music.
Gotta love romantic music. You know, a little slow song.
AC/DC, dude. Little rock. Quiet Riot. Bang Your Head. Some Def Leppard, ZZ Top. That's my era, buddy. Best fast food.
In and out.
See, I've never even had that.
No,
No, I can't say that because I've never had
I
that.
love that. I think it was one of those things where since I don't have it often, I crave it. But if we had it here, I wouldn't go that often.
See, I'm a McDonald's guy. I like McDonald's, and my wife does not. Sorry, McDonald's. Worst trends today.
Man, there has been some terrible trends that kids do all the time. I wouldn't know what to tell you that the trend is right now, but I mean, if you think back a few years ago, Tide Pods, people were eating Tide Pods. That was ridiculous.
Was that worst trend or stupid trend?
Both.
And again, opinions. So I'm not saying anybody's wrong if they like these things. I'm just saying it's not me. But
Peppers.
the face piercings,
Oh.
I just don't get it.
Oh.
And I've seen one, the worst one I've ever saw. Somebody had a piercing in their nose and in their eyebrow, and then they had a chain connecting it. And I'm sitting there thinking,
That's just a driving hazard.
well, yeah, I'm thinking it'd drive me crazy that I'm always seeing this line. My sunglasses are dirty. It drives me crazy.
My father would have disowned me, Tony.
My dad would have yanked it out.
My
And
grandpa would have yanked it out.
yeah, that's that era. Hopefully, after today, you get a little bit of you get to know us better, understand some things. But it's just fun talking about things that we've gone through in our lives or we go through daily. But definitely, we have a good working relationship, and there'll be times that you think we're bantering, and that's just part of who we are. And if Fernando would just agree with me on everything,
I can't.
it would be fine. He can't agree with me on anything. So that's not even
Once in a while.
yeah, and it's not on camera, I can tell you that. So
Never.
but thanks for being with us today on Pitstop. Next week we'll announce who our next guest is going to be, and we'll have somebody on here that you get to listen to besides the Auto Amigos. So
Thank you for joining us. I hope that you like to listen to a little bit of our story and how we get along. I think today we went through the ups and downs of life and the Auto Amigos and their backstory. So I hope you liked it. I hope we get to see you next time. Don't forget to follow us on all the platforms, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and keep following our social media. Turn on the notification setting so every time we post something, you get a notification and you can just jump right in. Remember, following us gets you cash. So make sure you always have that on. We are about to do Find Us This tomorrow, Friday, here in downtown Fremont. So
we do that every Friday.
yeah, we do that every Friday. So make sure you always tune in and make sure you're keeping up with our stories.
Yeah. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.
Have fun.